Welcome to the first episode of the Up and Coming podcast. I'm your host, Quarry Aline. And my first guest on the show is none other than my coach, my head coach at Stony for the Stony Brook men's basketball team, Geno Ford. Geno, how you doing, man?
I'm great, man. Good to be here with you, Q.
Yeah. Now, before we get into anything, I know you said you haven't had one of these since November 4th. All right? I know you said you ain't touched one of these. I don't want to be an enabler right now. I don't want to feel like I'm making you relapse. But if you want to take a sip of one of those, I'm going to just leave it there, let you do what you do, man.
Yeah, good man. I appreciate that. I don't have much discipline. That was probably great. I like that. That's good.
Just enabling an addict right now, man.
100%. Yeah, through the preseason, I've had stretches of my life where 6 to 8, I mean, there were probably days where it was as high as 10 or 12. And I'm not sure. It's probably not good for you. At least that's the rumor I heard. So I tried during the season because I knew I was going to get the inevitable stress headaches that come with the year. You know, you can't sleep and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought it would be a good time to go through caffeine withdrawal right when the season started. So that's good. I like that.
Oh, man,
good man.
Second up here. Now, I know you grew up in a rural area, Cambridge, Ohio, roughly about 13,000 people I saw. Can you tell me a little bit about this guy here, who he is, kind of where he started, and just kind of the mentality of this guy? Because I know, like, you know, all jokes aside, being a 5'6", 150-pound kid in high school, we all know, those who know you scored more points than LeBron in high school, before he was a high school player. And I know, you're the most humble and modest guy, but that is a huge feat for somebody, of your stature. But what was the mentality of this guy here?
Well, I think that I was lucky in a lot of ways. I wasn't blessed with good size, good speed, or quick or anything else. But where I was lucky, my dad was a high school coach, so I had access to a gym all the time. My dad was also an old school motivator. Now I think all players and really all people, you want some positive reinforcement. That was not the approach I was raised with, I can assure you. I can distinctly remember days where I would maybe not have worked out yet, and my dad would, it's good. Yeah, you need an off day because you're going to need to be fresh when you go to the military because they're going to feed you because I'm not paying for college. So if you don't get a scholarship, you're going to the military. And I have unbelievable respect for the military, and literally that's what I would have done. But I think him constantly prodding me about you're not very good, it just kind of lit a fire with me that I wanted to be a good player. And I think that, I played at a high school. There's 4 divisions in Ohio. One's the biggest, 4 is the smallest. I played at Division 2, so I was graduating with 250 kids roughly. So it wasn't one of these enormous schools that had such a pool of talent that you had no chance to play. So I was in a good spot. We won a lot of games. We played fast. We raced it up and down, so everybody's numbers were a little inflated, to be fair. And then, my uncle was a college coach. And so being exposed to that, like in the summers, I went to college open gyms. I didn't play against high school guys. Well, my uncle was an assistant at Muskingum, and then he was a head coach at Ohio Dominican, which is a Division II school in Columbus, Ohio. And Muskingum's a Division III school, but when he was there, they were terrific. They had gone the NCAA tournament a couple times, and especially in the Midwest, when I grew up, there were no Division II. There were 2 Division II schools in the entire state of Ohio. Ohio's huge. In terms of landmass. There were 13 Division I's, 2 Division II's, and everybody else was Division III. So if you weren't good enough to play at Ohio State or Cincinnati, and you couldn't play in the Mid-American Conference, you were going Division III, and the level of play was terrific. And so being exposed to that really gave me some huge advantages. I mean, I'll never forget being literally 8th grader playing against college players, and we played the defense called fouls. So I'm telling you, if you took the ball to the basket, they might clothesline you, pick the ball up, go the other way, and score the game winner. And your 4 teammates literally hate you because you cost them the game by turning it over. And if you lost, you had to run punishment sprints. And, like you're 14, man, you turn the thing over. I got some 23-year-old guy who's a fifth-year senior that wants to punch me in the face. Like, you start understanding, like, that this, you better play with some toughness, and you better play at a level of, and have a level of care maybe that you wouldn't otherwise. So, I did have some advantages that way that really, without those, I'm sure I would not have played in college.
Wow. Now, you mentioned your father earlier. I did, some research on him. Legendary coach, coached at Cambridge for how many years was that?
He was at Cambridge 25. He did high school 31 total. He was at a couple other schools prior to that, yeah.
So over 400 wins there. Could you just talk about his impact on you and kind of, his coach? What was it like playing for your dad?
Yeah, it was weird because honestly, he was the type, anything that went wrong was on me. There was no, it was interesting because I always felt like he was my coach. He never really felt like dad. I felt like you were kind of under surveillance, 24/7. Oh yeah, like listen, man, we didn't have a lot of money. I had two brothers, and my mom, she worked, but it was she took care of the house and the kids, and then might have a part-time job as allowed, basically with her schedule. I mean, she just was too busy to be working full time, and I think that growing up in that, he just, I mean, you didn't get like, hey man, here's $10 to go to the movies. Like, no, you can forget that. Like, that's not gonna happen. Like, he was get to the gym, get better, get yourself a scholarship. When I moved out, I always tell this story when I was, and we got, our relationship was good when I was an adult. But I'll tell you what, man, when I was a kid, like I don't have a ton of like, oh, I remember when my dad and I went and had this meaningful experience. Well, we didn't do a lot of that, man. Like he was tough, and he was on you, and he wanted you to be good, and he tried to challenge you, and he was really terrific about needling you, just finding ways to push your buttons to get you to maybe do things you didn't want to do to get what you wanted. Right. And I'll be honest, like when I was fortunate enough to play at Ohio and play in an NCAA tournament, I played on a top 25 team. Those things all happened because I was kind of prodded to go do things outside my comfort zone, to be fair. And so I think that you try to emulate some of that. Now, I have parented my kids much softer and nicer than he parented me, but I'd point out neither one of my kids have been, lighting it up either. But yeah, for sure.
So now, looking at your father, I, looked at his upbringing, was a great player in his own right too. And I remember read a book by Jeff Harrison, Gene Ford Holding Court, right? And
I hope you didn't read that.
Read a little bit, man. But I remember one story. He quoted your dad saying that he spoke to the coaches at Ohio University, and basically what they said to him was, "What the hell are you gonna do with, for lack of a better term, a midget? At 5'6". So now you look at that. That was 1970. Him graduating high school,
He graduated college in 74. Yeah.
So graduated high school in 1970. So now you look at 15 years later, his own son is at OU. How did that come about? When did they start recruiting you? And then I know your father was great friends with Bob Huggins, longtime friend. Did Huggy ever recruit you to go to UC at all?
I took a visit to Cincinnati, and I'll tell you what cured me of that. 3 words. I'm not sure they're all words, but Nick Van Exel. So I went to visit, and he was the starting point guard. And so I went to practice, and I'd done the whole sit down in the office and talk about all the things that you can do academically at Cincinnati. And I saw the academic facility, and they show you the locker room, which is beautiful. And they had gone to the Final Four. So, this is when Hugs had it rolling there. And I went to practice, and I watched Nick Van Exel, and I thought, I will never play. I mean, and I was a confident guy, but I was not delusional. I mean, that guy averaged 20 a game in the NBA. He was 6 foot. They call it Nick the Quick was what he was known to be. Yeah, he was an NBA All-Star. So I didn't have any illusions of my matchup with Nick Van Exel. And then Ohio University had also offered me a scholarship, and I had visited there. I had visited Ohio State, and to be honest, I grew up I have never been an Ohio State fan. Everyone in my family has liked Ohio State. My neighbors liked Ohio State. My favorite college football team in the country is whoever Ohio State is playing that week. I literally, I only watch the games when they're losing. If they're winning, I turn it off. It makes I'm the most anti-Ohio State guy there's ever been. So I was never going to do that, and they weren't very good at that point. And Ohio University was a program that was getting better. I really connected with the head coach, Larry Hunter. I felt like it was a good fit for me. And then the most important thing was not only did they have a great facility and all those kind of things, but I went to a practice. And I watched guys running around that did not look like Nick Van Exel. And I thought, all right, I can play with these dudes. Like, I can play with these dudes. And I was lucky. I ended up starting as a freshman. We played in the NCAA tournament, and I played on some great teams. Gary Trent was a lottery pick that I was able to play with. And Coach Bowles, who was here, was really the glue to our program. He was a great passer, a great screener, a tough guy, a great team defender, and so I was in the right place at the right time. It was just a really good fit for me.
Right. Wow. So I looked at your coaching history and kind of branching off. You were at OU after you graduated for 2 years, or?
For 1 year, and then I was a full-time assistant for 2, so I was there for 3, yeah.
Okay. Then moved on to Stony State. Now, you were 27 at the time coaching, which means you were only about 4 or 5 years older than some of the seniors on your team.
Dude, not all of them. Let me tell you a true story real quick. So I had, when I took the job, I was 27 as a head coach. My starting power forward was 28. In NAIA, there's no clock. Right. So they have a clock in the NCAA. So, NCAA, you get 5 years to play for. Now, there's, if you get hurt a couple times, you can maybe get a 6th year on a medical or something like that. But it's 5-year clock. There's no clock at NAIA. So you get 4 years of college eligibility. So this guy had taken some time off, worked in the real world. So I literally had a starter older than I was, yes. But go ahead.
Yeah. So, the question of that, I remember hearing something Jimmy V said one time where he was just started at Rutgers. He was the assistant there and wanted to give a speech to his guys. This is the first time he ever did it. He kind of remembered his Vince Lombardi quote where he's like, God, family, and the Green Bay Packers or something like that, right? He comes in and says it verbatim, God, family, the Green Bay Packers instead of the, Scarlet Knights. How did you command respect at that time being a coach who had older guys or guys that you were just a couple years older than? Yeah,
you know what? We were lucky in the sense that we had the right group of guys. And I think, and you played on the team, at least I sure hope you'd feel this way. You're not. I know you'll say the right thing on the mic, but I hope you feel this way. Like, I have never, ever, ever wanted to make our program or that program when I was there about me. It's one of the things that I literally despise the most in the profession. I don't like when guys try to make themselves to be, we're not curing cancer. We're coaching basketball. I'm very blessed to have the job I have. I'm beyond fortunate to be at Stony Brook. I want our guys to have a great experience making lifetime bonds. We need and have to win, because if we don't win enough, obviously someone else will be in my office. That's the way and I get that. But I will never be the head coach in the team picture who's holding the ball in the middle of the team with everybody huddled around me. I'm not going to do the media stuff and go on what I do with our team and that. So I think guys, or I hope, I really hope genuinely that guys feel that way, because I don't, and I think players know, like, you either can earn their respect through how you treat people, and that doesn't mean, what is it? Fair is not always equal. There's a standard that everyone needs to be held up to. I really try hard to make sure that every single guy's role on our team, for our team to be successful, whether you took 20 shots in the game or whether you didn't get in, you still have a hand in us winning and losing. And I want everybody to feel that shared accomplishment when we win, and I want everyone to feel that shared suffering when we lose. And I think that that's really important. And I think if you do that, guys realize that you're not being necessarily, phony's kind of a generic term, but you know what I mean. Like I think I've been in this business a long time. There are a lot of guys, when you listen to them talk about their program or their team, that they make it very much about themselves. Like that's not something that I'm a huge fan of. So I've tried to go the other way at a high level.
Gotcha. So now transitioning more into this season, we'll definitely jump around a lot here. There were a lot of changes made. I think that's been a constant this season where, change has been that one thing that we've all experienced. I mean, in my role, transitioning from manager to walk-on was big for me. You transitioning from assistant to head, Elijah kind of stepping up in his role, Drew. Everybody on the team kind of experienced different changes, even the offense, right, which some of us are still trying to get acclimated to.
We'll leave that for offense.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But what were the things that you saw in the beginning of the season that contributed you saying, you know what, we're going to kind of change in the way things operate here, not so much in the culture aspect, but just so much how, the players we have, the talent that we have, we're going to utilize in this way?
Yeah, I think that's a great observation. I think what we tried to do was we wanted to look at, okay, we've finished second 2 of the last 3 years. We're also 0-7 against Vermont in the last 3 years. Why are we not able to be more competitive against the team that's kind of dominating our league right now? And if you dug into it, you'd see that, I'm a Ken Palm guy, as you would know. You listeners have no idea what that is. But Ken Pomeroy created a huge website, and he's an analytics guy. And so every phase of your offense, defense, everything else, there's literally formulas where it's boiled down to this is where you rank on offense out of 353 teams, and they have it weighed. It matters who you played. So if you go play Virginia and you score, 1 point per possession, that is more impressive than you scoring 1.4 points per possession against the worst defensive team in the country. So when you get into that and you dig into it, you would find that we were 250 or worse in offense all 3 years. Our defense was 120 or better. So, fortunately, you only talked about my playing, not my academic career. Although I did graduate cum laude. Let's be serious here. But in all fairness, I was a better player than student. So I'm not real smart. But if we're having success on defense and we're not winning championships, the issue's probably at the other end of the court. So we literally threw out every single offensive thing we were doing. We totally, we're not running anything that we ran offensively. Zone offense has been the same, but man offense has been a wholesale change. We also thought it fit our personnel better. We wanted to give Elijah and Drew opportunities to not only play on the perimeter, but also have chances to post up, have some isolation drive stuff. And we didn't want guys to be so robotic. I felt like we ran a lot of sets. And when you run a lot of sets, guys learn the plays. But then a team takes the first option away and you have to go to something else. And maybe you haven't had to do that because the last few teams just let you go first option. And so you get into all these counters and second and third options. And I felt like we were very robotic offensively. So we tried to go to something that was more equal opportunity, more freedom, but it's challenging because we can't really easily come out and just say, oh, okay, on this play we know we're going to get a 3 for McHale on the wing, or we know we're going to get Elijah on this. Now we can do that a little bit, but a lot of our possessions are free flowing. Guys got to figure it out. We're trying to teach concepts. It's already paid off in the short term in the sense that we have spent most of the year up around 180. And the reason we're not higher than even that, on January 7th, we were in the top 25 of the country in three-pointers made and three-pointers attempted. In the last 8 games, so it spanned a month, in the last 8 games, we've only shot better than 33% one time. And that was the Albany game, which was probably our best win of the last 8, where we shot 50% from 3. So if we can get back to shooting it how we shot it 2/3 of the season, if we can finish up the last 5 games like we played 2/3 of the season, that number will go up exceedingly higher, and that's how you have a chance to win a championship. When we beat Vermont at Vermont, we were 13 of 27 from 3. not saying you have to shoot that well every night, but three-point shooting has taken over basketball.
Yeah.
Pro, college, high school. If you can't shoot it, it's hard to play.
Right.
And if you can shoot it, you're a legitimate weapon. And we've had some individuals maybe go through a little slumps the last month. And playing shorthanded right now with Elijah banged up, it impacts it. But we've just got to find a way to make more shots. That's really that simple.
Right. And
touched on it because my next point was really, you played in an era where the game was, it was so multifaceted, and it wasn't so much 3-point scoring. It was a lot of inside out banging and getting to the lane a lot. What for you? How have you had to restructure kind of your playing days to now coaching in an era where 3 points is the kind of it rules all of basketball?
Yeah, it's been an interesting change because my college coach, if you would have caught it in transition and shot a three, you not only were coming out, you may need to enter witness protection. I mean, he was not going for any of that. His famous line, "I'm not buying into that." It was like you knew, okay, yeah, we're not going to do that one. The shot clock was 45 seconds. Everybody played high-low. Everybody's four-man was a five-man, really. They were power players. And, you look at the NBA, and it's really unfortunate. And he made it, and he was able to play. But, the best player in Stony Brook history has been Jameel Warney. Well, Jameel Warney is unbelievably gifted and talented. He is a four-man that if he was born 10 years earlier, he would have had a 10-year NBA career.
Barkley-esque kind of
Barkley,
guy.
Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley, Antonio Williams, Dale Davis. Every single team in the NBA played a four-man just like him. Now, everybody's four-man is a wing. He's a three-point shooter, floor spacer, and they play one five-man who ball screens and runs to the rim. Everybody plays the same. And so that has filtered into college because college will always mimic the NBA. Biggest reason, your one-and-dones, the guys that are definite lottery picks, they're trying to get to the NBA. If all of a sudden Coach K or Calipari or one of these premier programs decided that they were going to do, I'm going to go double low post power basketball, they could probably still win because they could get the lottery pick guys. Those guys don't want to play that way. They want to play how they're going to be used at the next level. So those guys are smart enough to realize it's about getting these guys to the NBA. So now, what do you think the other colleges are doing? Well, you're watching what Duke's doing. You're seeing what Kentucky's doing. You may not have that necessarily when you're coaching in the Southern Conference at Western Carolina, but you're going to mimic it to some degree. I mean, it's a copycat business where you're going to be pretty similar to other teams. I mean, at one point, everybody ran motion offense because Bobby Knight was at Indiana winning national championships with motion offense. Then, the Syracuse started the 2-3 zone. Well, no one played 2-3 zone. Now everyone that plays 2-3 zone plays Syracuse's 2-3 zone. High on the wings. Yeah, of course. So it is a process, and you've got to adapt with the game because that's what the kids are playing AAU in the feeder systems. That's how they're playing. So there aren't four men back to the baskets being developed in high school. So what are we going to do? Get you 19, 20 years old and teach you how to play back to the basket? You've been playing a different way your whole life. So, I think to some degree I've adapted, but you have to. You couldn't survive.
Now, in terms of recruiting, how the game has changed? How has that impacted, guys you go after? And I guess even more so, for a personal question for you, have you ever come across a guy who reminded you of yourself that you recruited in terms of playing style or a mentality or anything?
If I ever recruited anyone that played like me, I would call someone else. No, I've never recruited any small two guards. I joke a little bit when Mikhail has a huge game and goes for 25. Then I'd say, "Oh yeah, you look like me." No, I'm kidding. But I definitely in recruiting, I think the biggest challenge is you've got to invest time to get to know the guy. I mean, you're in our locker room. You know the culture we have. We literally, you can't have better human beings on a basketball team than what we have at Stony Brook. We've got kids that they take care of the academics. They take care socially. You meet one of our guys in public. They're well-spoken. They're smart. They're articulate. They're personable. That's not the norm of what everyone's locker room is. And so you got to get guys that are good enough to win, but we've really tried to put a premium on character and getting the right guys. And it makes it such a better process because having been in the business 25 years, anyone who's been in it as long as I have has coached some teams where you had a few characters, not necessarily guys with character. And I can tell you those are some of the least fun seasons you go through because it's just nonstop. I mean, we've got a group that literally when we don't win, it's human nature. Everybody wants to find why didn't you win? What's wrong? What's this? And it's easy to point fingers and I can blame you and you can blame him and he can blame someone else. We literally have guys they internalize it. Like, hey, I'm not saying that they're not human to a degree, but for the most part, it's I didn't play well. I need to do this better. I need to do this better. We as a group need to do this better. We as a group need to do this better. Not as much me blaming you, and that's made it a fun team to be around.
Gotcha. So you often mention toughness kind of being the number one thing above anything else, but before X's and O's. How does that translate where you get a guy you may recruit him and he doesn't come from a background where he's had to be tough? Maybe in his life or overcome certain things or nobody ever pushed him that way. When he gets to you, how do you kind of evoke that out of him and how do you know not to, go overboard and cross the line because a guy may, just be a little, not acquiescent to that?
Yeah, no, that's a very fine line because, you always want your guys to be even tougher than they are. There's, toughness, there's no perfection of toughness. And toughness comes two ways, like we're talking basketball toughness, not street fight tough. We need guys that basketball toughness. Well, what's that look like? Well, that's somebody that is able mentally to concentrate. That's somebody that, they're willing to dive on a loose ball. They're willing to take a charge. They're going to run the floor hard. Those are kind of the physical elements. They're going to set a screen. They're not going to shy away from contact in the post. Those things you have to have. But honestly, the mental toughness piece oftentimes overrides the physical toughness because if you can't not only concentrate but compete at a high level, I mean, you've certainly experienced it this year. I mean, we have been going since September 15th. It is now late February, and all of our important games are over the next 2 weeks. We had a 3-day break for Christmas, or maybe it was 4-day break for Christmas. You guys have had no time away. You give up all your holidays. You give up your weekends. We usually get 1 day off a week. There isn't an activity, and I don't care who you are, what your favorite activity in life is. Like for me, off season, listen, I like to play golf. I mean, whatever. So whatever your thing is, I don't want to play golf 6 days in a row, take 1 day off, play 6 days in a row, take 1 day off, and do that for 5 months. And that's the mental concentration and toughness piece that you have to be able to do at basketball. And we play the most high profile in terms of what most sports would be. If we lose, it's on the ticker of ESPN, it's on the ticker of NBC, it's on the ticker, it's in the paper, it's on the news. We never have to tell someone how the game went. People know if we lost. And so when you lose, or, if you have a win, which is the goal, right, deal with success. But when things aren't going well, that's when it's challenging. And when you get beat and you go on the road, and like we go on these road trips, like there's atmosphere. There's crowds at the game. And we just got back from Binghamton, who, if the tournament started today, wouldn't qualify. It was 4,000 people and loud as could be. You couldn't hear guys talking right to you. So when you get atmospheres like that, the home team performs higher than what their ability is 9 times out of 10. We have to go into those atmospheres, find a way to win, and if you don't win, you got to regroup quick because you got to go do it again in 2 days. And so the mental toughness piece in recruiting is one that, man, and you don't know until you go through the real grind with someone, you know. And when you go through the grind, you know what they're made of. You recruit them. Everybody puts their best foot on. It's like dating, you know. It's like dating. Like you meet someone you want to go on a date with. Like, you don't go immediately walk up to them and say, "Hey, here's my 5 worst qualities." Bum 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 bum. You know, you're selling the good stuff. And in recruiting, we're selling the best parts of our opportunity for you as a student and as a basketball player. And you're selling your best self as to why we should want you to do that here. And you know, like. Then the marriage begins, and now we're together every day, and you know, it's of course, and you got to have people that you can go through the lows with. That's the key.
Gotcha. So now looking, you know, for any young listeners that we may have on the podcast who just, you know, may have dreams of being a Division I player, you know, just a college player in general, what is the one piece of advice you would give to college recruits or, you know, young guys kind of working their way up to be mindful of, to be aware of, and what college coaches look for just in case they may not have that insight?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think there are 3 things that jump right out at me. The first one, from a basketball-specific standpoint, is shooting, which we've already talked about. But I'm telling you, if you can't make threes, and make them at a relatively good clip, you know, like for us, we usually want guys that can shoot near 40% in high school, knowing that they're going to regress at this level because you're going to play against better athletes and lines further away and better preparation. Listen, my high school coach, you know, he's in the Hall of Fame for the state. He went to the Final Four 5 times in his career. He had to teach all day, and then he didn't become coach until 3 o'clock. We have 5 people whose full-time job is to make sure Stony Brook basketball can win. We have 5 guys, and some schools have 7 or 8. We have 13 guys on the team. My full-time job is our basketball team. Our 4 assistants' full-time job is our basketball team. And so the amount of prep work, film work that we can do is going to blow away what any kid can be exposed to in high school. So be able to shoot the ball, because when you get here, they're going to guard you way better here than what you've been guarded. Bigger, faster, stronger, and better coach just because of the time. Not that we're better coaches, but we have more time with you. The second and third thing, to be honest, once you get beyond the shooting, to me, the second one is your attitude when you play. If we walk in to watch you play and your body language is bad, your attitude is bad with your teammates, your coaches, the officials, if you're talking to your parents who are sitting in the stands, if you're overboard, obnoxious, celebratory when things go your way, you are going to have to be the player of the year in our league for us to even consider going anywhere near you. And so we eliminate a lot of guys off attitude. So how you're perceived and how you treat others matters. And we're not the only staff that does that. So, and then I think the third thing, I'm going to go back to the mental toughness piece of, never should I come to see you play and I don't feel like you're playing hard. The guys that coast, the guys that are cool when they play, it doesn't work. Because as you go up and get exposed playing against better guys, like, it wasn't cool on Saturday when we brought you guys in and worked you out for an hour and a half and did strength training testing. That wasn't cool on Saturday. We were in our bye week. It wasn't cool when you had to come in on Sunday morning for practice. It wasn't cool when you had to be in here getting off the bus at 2 in the morning after a game at Binghamton that you win, and you just got to your dorm and it's 2:30 and you're trying to fall asleep and you have an 8 o'clock class. Well, it's not going to be cool every day, man. Like what you envision college basketball being, where you're shooting in that driveway about how this is going to be so sweet that I'm going to get to do this, there's a lot of, like I jokingly and I lovingly say this, but, there's a lot of, quote, miserable college basketball. Like, it is miserable to be on a bus at 2, 3 in the morning, win or lose. It is miserable to be up at 6 a.m. for weights. It is miserable to go to practice every day. We're the only sport that travels both semesters. The only sport that competes both semesters. We have the longest year. We play the most games. We play at the highest pressure games in front of the most fans. So it's a grind, and it's hard. And it's not supposed to be fun every day. It's not. What you learn is that if you can embrace the struggle of the hard times, that's where, when we talk about this a lot as a team, adversity is not getting beat. Adversity is I'm 29 years old, I've got a young child, I'm married, and I just lost my job. Well, that's adversity. So hopefully we have had enough tough basketball situations that it can be a great confidence builder for you that, hey, I've been through tough things. I've always come out on the other side. I know what winning looks like. I know, so that when I'm in life and it's tough, I can win in life. Because if that's not what we're doing, then they should literally just cancel the program. Like, hopefully we're helping people have a better college experience as part of that student athlete experience. But to me, more importantly, what's your life look like when you're 30? What's it going to look like when you're 35? And it's not going to be fun every day between now and then either. It's going to be hard. You're going to deal with some tragedies, some adversities. You're in some disappointments. You're going to work for a boss that you may not like. You're going to work for a boss or report to someone that you think that's incompetent, that you're better than. Well, you know what? You better do your job, and you better not have an attitude with the person above you or you're going to get replaced. And that's what happens in sports, right? I mean, bad attitude, you get erased. No, you're not going to be there. So hopefully those are the kind of things that guys are filing away, and as they go on, that's where as a coach you feel good when you see a guy who has figured it out and is doing well for himself later in life, and you feel like you're a small part of that along with their family.
Absolutely. Now, one thing, just kind of hitting mentally on it, the mental health of athletes has kind of come to the forefront over, maybe the last decade, but definitely more so in the last 5 years we've seen. For you, as a player, where it just wasn't paid attention to as much, or, nobody really knew too much about it, how did, was there anything in your experience, maybe personally or like that you went through with a teammate that you know of that was going through something, and more so now, I saw HBO did a documentary called Student Athlete, and they had one of your former players, Mike Shaw, was actually featured on it. So when you see guys like that dealing with it, how sensitive are you to it? How understanding are you to it? And how do you think players can actually, overcome these things, in their own lives?
Yeah, I think sensitive to it at a high level, understanding of it is a process. And, because honestly, like you just said, this wasn't even discussed 5 years ago. Nobody paid, you were, hey, toughen up. Hey, toughen up. And sometimes that is the answer, and sometimes that's not the answer. And I think that getting people, like 10 years ago as a coach, I wouldn't even known where to direct a player for help. I mean, I would have gone and found it, but like it's not something that I would have easily. Okay, listen, you need to go and talk to someone, because literally, I'm not a professional. I can help. I know our players' backgrounds better than others might, just because I'm around you guys so much. However, I'm not qualified to be doing professional therapy sessions, right? So I think that just knowing where to send people and encouraging them that if they feel like they might need to do that they should do it. And there's no negativity to it. It's not something that there's a bad stigma on, I needed to go talk to someone. Good. That maybe, because the idea is to help people. And so, honestly, very sensitive to it. It's important. I know it's important. Do I have the answers? No, I'm not certified to have those, but I think that as long as coaches we know that we A, care, we make it acceptable, B, and C, we can get you to where you need to get for the help. I think that's probably, you can always do more, so I hate using the term like that's as much as you're going to be able to do, but, we're not certified in those situations, so it can be challenging, and it's hard, not speaking on any specific examples, because honestly, when I played, no one ever said anything. Like, I mean, hey, did I have problems? Sure, I had problems. I mean, I was playing Division I basketball. Some days I played poorly. Some days I played well. I'll never forget the 2-week stretch we had. We went to Hawaii. Connecticut was ranked 9th in the country. They had 5 pros: Ray Allen, Donnie Marshall, Danielle Marshall, Travis Knight, Duran Scheffler, Kevin Ollie, who coached up there. Those guys were all on the same team. They're ranked 9th in the country. They were undefeated. We played them in Hawaii. We blew them out. I was MVP of the tournament. And within 2 weeks, we played Ball State and Miami. And Miami of Ohio had a good team, but it's Miami of Ohio. It is not Connecticut. Now, they did have Wally Zerbiak, who was terrific. But I was like 1 for 10. I was the reason we lost to Miami. So then the next game, I played the only college game. We played Bowling Green. The only game in my career I didn't score a point. I was like 0 for 4, didn't score. So within a 2-week time period, you go from thinking you're really good to I've never played worse. And it all happened within 12 days. And, you have personal stuff. I mean, hey, my first son was born. I was 20 years old. I was married when I was a sophomore in college. Like there's some, you would talk about adversity, man. Like, hey, we need groceries and we don't have enough money for groceries. Like, that's pressure. Swallowing your pride and going and getting on, government programs, which I was on every single one that existed. I couldn't survive any other way. Now, and I'm one of these people that literally, no one that I know has ever heard me utter one word about, I'm kind of getting off on a topic here, but like no one's ever heard me a word complaining about paying taxes or all the tax rates. You know what? There was a point in my life where I depended on help. And because of that, hey, whatever it is, man, I'm going to pay. And I'm not going to say a word about it because there are people, when I was 20 years old, I'm a sophomore in college, I was faced with 2 options. I can continue to be a full-time student. I was on scholarship, but my wife was not on scholarship. My oldest son was not on scholarship. So how are they eating? Well, we needed all the help we could get. And, that's humbling and that's difficult. And my dad was a teacher. They didn't have any money to give us. Her family had no money to give us. So we had to figure it out and use whatever means we could. I worked on the side. I worked hard in the summers. I worked 2 jobs in the summers because we didn't go to summer school like you guys do now. Like, that wasn't a thing. No one went to summer school unless you were ineligible, and luckily that was never my case. So, I just think, going through all those deals, like, hey, I had tough times. Now, I made it through. I would literally equate most of that back to my upbringing of I was taught that toughness mattered and all those kind of things, but that doesn't mean that it's weakness to have a mental health issue. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that we all are affected by our personal experiences. And I never had a teammate. I never heard a teammate ever, they might talk about the tough situation they had at home because there were some of those that existed, but not anything where it was out in the open and discussed and, you were making a point of like, hey, man, like I'm going through some stuff. I need some time away or I need to go seek some help. It just wasn't open like that.
How the hell did you manage to be a full-time dad, one of the leading scorers in Ohio basketball, and still manage to graduate, one of the top in your class?
Well, I'll say this. You end up, you get a level of focus about you and you get organized. I was my major was communications, organizational communications. Well, organizational communications, at that time, it was the #1 ranked. Now, for all I know, it may have been the only one, but Ohio University had the #1 ranked organizational communications, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I should stay in this because I'm just a solid student. Well, then I got into it and realized it was all public speaking, and for anyone who's still listening, you can tell I talk way too much, so I'm not afraid to talk. And it was group work, and I was a very good organizer. So I would get guys and gals organized, and we'd do our projects. So I never, school was relatively easy my last couple of years because it was mostly just give speeches and do projects. And, from a basketball standpoint, it was hard. I think, the advantage of, I think there's an element when you're undersized that people are going to take you a little bit lightly. I think that was always a great motivator for me. The other thing, I literally went 4 years of college, and you could ask any of my teammates. I never one time went out and got drunk. I never one time fooled around with drugs. It's Friday night, I was in the gym getting better. While other people were having a college experience, potentially, I'm not saying they were all out doing that stuff, but some of them certainly were. It's college, and I get it. I was never into any of that. I was totally driven to try to be a great player. That's all I wanted to be. And I would, they have the Mendoza line. Okay, in baseball, like you hit 200, it's the Mendoza line. When I was a senior, the first team all-conference was Wally Zerbiak, Antonio Daniels, Bonzi Wells, all 3 guys lottery picks. Earl Boykins, who had about a 12-year NBA career, and me. So I was the Mendoza line. That was the first team all-league. The other 4 all played a long time in the NBA. I got shipped to Europe as a 5'6" guard. And anyhow, I say that jokingly, but I think that it meant a lot to me to try to be the best player I could. Like I felt a great sense of responsibility to try to do that. So I was never going to do anything that I felt like would take away from that. And I'm sure that I was not going to win any Dad of the Year because I didn't get up in the middle of the night. My wife handled all that stuff, and I was not 2 a.m. changing diapers. She handled all that. So I didn't have it all that bad. I mean, I tried to be, everybody wants to be a great dad, and I think I certainly was a lot better once I was out of college and got a real job.
We transition a little bit. You often talk to us about, the definition of a man is to take care of your responsibilities, and the lunch pail mentality is something that you bring up often. Where does that come from? Because I know, I read that your dad grew up a coal miner when he was young. What was your first introduction to what hard work is outside of the basketball realm?
Yeah, I think my family, so my grandfather dropped out of school when he was in 5th grade and became a coal miner. And I don't even know how that was legal, but it was so long ago, that's what he did. Yeah, exactly. That's what he did. I mean, that's how his family got by. And, he did that. He was hurt in a mining accident and had to retire young, and then lived a really tough life at the end, just was sick. Had black lung from being in the mines, and made a very poor decision of being a smoker along with that. And so he had a lot of breathing issues and didn't have an easy one, but as tough a guy as I've ever been around. And my dad grew up there, and he used to work at the mines after school and on weekends and in the summer shoveling coal. And I always, like, my dad's forearms were like as big as most people's thighs because all he did was shovel. So his forearms were enormous. My deal, I never was in that mode because my dad was the first person who ever graduated from college. So it really changed the trajectory of our family. And I bring this up with our guys a lot because a lot of our players are first-generation college students. You are as well. So what you hope, right, and what your parents hoped and their parents hoped is that you make it better for the next generation. And, by my dad getting a college degree, being a high school teacher, being a coach, I ended up going to college. It was just expected, like, you're going to go to college. Now, I didn't know if that was going to be through the military to college or if that was going to be get a scholarship to college, but I was going to get through college because it's just what was expected and what you grew up aspiring to do. Well, my middle brother, went to college, and he's a college coach at Akron. And, it just kind of veered. And it's interesting. My youngest brother went to college, but he owns his own business. He runs a tire and service center in Cambridge, Ohio, small town, as you discussed, 13,000 people. Does a whale of a business. Did over $1 million of business in a small community. And it's funny because all I can do with my car is start it. And if it doesn't start, I have to call someone who can help me make it start because I know nothing. But we all found our path. And I just think the things that were, my dad, my gosh, we had a wood pile. And, I'll make this brief because no one's going to care. But we had a wood pile at our house because we had a wood-burning stove in the basement. Part of his way of making me be a good player, he never said, hey, go work out, you got to go work out. But he would literally get you up. It would be summer. It's 7 in the morning. All you want to do is sleep. And, hey, you got to get up. We got to move the wood pile. I don't know why we had to move. We would move this wood pile from one side of the yard to the other. And then the next week it would have to be moved back. And then it would need to be moved over here. And it would take hours. And I found the only way I could ever get out of that or mowing. And our yard was just a complete hill. It was the biggest hill you've ever seen. And wasn't a huge yard, but it was just severe sloped and a misery to mow. He wanted the grass cut every 3 days. I mean, I don't know why, if he thought we were going to host the Masters or something, but the only way I could ever get out of yard work and manual labor was to say, well, I was getting ready to go to the gym. I'm supposed to go work out. I'm going to beat my boy Mark. We're going to work out. And Mark has no idea because this is a complete lie. But once I found that I could get away, that's what I did. And so I would come up with, basketball would get me out of manual labor. So he probably outsmarted me. He knew what I was doing, but I thought I was outsmarting him.
So, former player transition into coach. We've seen it, all throughout college basketball, but a lot more so now. You look at Penny at Memphis and Juwan Howard kind of at the higher levels. What advantage do you think that gives coaches who, played at a high level over coaches who may have just, kind of worked their way through, and definitely, deservingly so. But you kind of have an upper edge on coaches who didn't play the game.
Yeah, Q, the one thing with coaching, and I think you'll find this, right, timing is so key. I love our staff here. I think Coach Ricard is, he's been at Stony Brook now for 20 years as a player. He's had every job imaginable on staff. He started as a GA, and then he was the operations guy, and now he's a full-time assistant. He coached the women for a couple years, and I think he's just terrific. And Jaden Euchen on staff, who's been with me every year I've been a head coach. He's just a smart. He's a thinker. He's a really bright guy, and he's super genuine, as nice a guy as you'd ever be around. I think Coach Randall Holt is really going to do some neat things in his career. He's first year, but an unbelievable amount of knowledge and a great presence. Not a guy who's going to scream and yell at you a ton, but when he talks, everybody tunes in to hear what he's saying, and he just carries himself how you see the elite coaches carry themselves. Coach Weber and I have been here together for 4 years, and he's done the bulk of the recruiting here and recruited most of our roster, including a lot of really good players. And so I think you're all those guys are capable of being head coaches, and totally different. Right. But what happens is timing is such a key thing with coaching. If John Beeline doesn't take the Cavs job, which he just resigned from, right, in the middle of the year, and if he doesn't take it, Juwan Howard's not the coach at Michigan, because he's probably going to coach another 4 or 5 years. Penny is certainly he is Memphis. He's so tied in there. But a lot of times it just comes down to when's a job open, what is that school exactly looking for, and a lot of hires. I was fortunate here that we're one of only 6 teams in the country, right, that does not have a senior starter. We have none. And I think that when you have a younger team, you have the administration likes continuity. I mean, we won 24 games. We finished in second place. We had mostly everyone coming back. And so I was very lucky that Sean had enough confidence in what Jeff was doing that he felt like I could continue on that path, and very fortunate that Sean gave me this opportunity. He could have gone any one of 200 other directions, and some of those guys would have come in and been unbelievably great. And so, you realize the longer you're in it how much right place, right time makes sense. Had I stayed in television 3 years ago when Coach Bowles got the job here, and I, after a year or two, gone and say, whatever, you go be the assistant at Florida, I wouldn't be the head coach at Stony Brook today because I wasn't here and I wasn't part of the kind of rebuilding of the program. I wouldn't have known Sean. Sean wouldn't have known me. Right. So, you make decisions in your career, and then the timing is what's going to determine what happens. And there are a lot of qualified people out there, and every day I my key hits that door, man. Believe me, there ain't anybody that feels more appreciative of where they are than me.
So, just to kind of tie everything together, I did a lot of research on your dad. Reading the book really gave me a lot of insight about you, because I see so many of the same characteristics in him, but not but not so much in, definitely the basketball knowledge, but just the stories about. There was one story I read that a student his mother couldn't read, so she couldn't fill out the free lunch for him, and your dad took it upon himself to say, I'm going to help you out, and bought the same kid an alarm clock to wake up for breakfast every morning. Like, those are the things that remind me him of you in a lot of ways.
I appreciate you saying that, because those are great stories, and I those give you pride. Now, there are a lot of other things I probably do that he does that would not be the same, but would end the podcast on a low note. But he was an interesting guy because he was really hard on his kids and very generous with everyone else. And so, my middle brother, Dustin, who's an assistant at Akron, when he and I, talk about Dad, and, he passed away last June, it's funny because we're very appreciative of how we were raised, but we were not, he was not a handout guy. He was not a, hey, let me help you. He wanted you to figure it out yourself. I think we always knew that we could call him if we needed something. My personal pride would never allow me to ever ask him for anything because I would have felt like he would have felt like, either that he had won or that I had failed on some assignment somehow. But I think that the great cool thing about what he did was he was able to be in the same town. Even when we gave up the high school job and he took the Division III job at Muskingum, he was my assistant for 2 years, and then he got the head coaching job after I left. He coached for 35 years and lived in the same town. So he not only either taught or coached you, he taught or coached mom and dad. He taught or coached maybe even a grandparent in a couple unique situations. And like he like all coaches, like you see North Carolina now, who's having a really awful year. No coach is some guru who just wins without players. Like Roy Williams did not win on these national titles, hit his head in the shower, and forget how to coach. Roy Williams had a team that was good, and he was able to win with them. Now he's got a team that's bad, and they're not winning. And it's not about the coach. Like, Billy Donovan won back-to-back national titles. The next year, they didn't even make the NIT. So it's about players. It's about people. And, I think the relationships my dad was able to make were long-lasting because he was in the same place so long. And it's interesting. I'm 45 years old. At the end of this year, I will have been at Stony Brook for 4 years. In my entire career, this will tie for the longest of any one place I've been at. That in coaching, man, people have bounced around. I'm really fortunate that I've been able to stay here and feel like I've got some roots finally.
And that's great because your dad mentioned, you don't enter the coaching fraternity until you get fired. And
yeah.
then, your situation at Bradley.
Yeah,
so how was that, coming off, you were 2-time coach of the year in the MAC at Kent State. You go to Bradley, some ups and downs there. And then you're out of a job. How do you manage? What's the first thought that kind of goes through your head? Or?
Yeah, it's like anybody losing a job. I think with coaching though, it's more public. Everybody knows. It's not like if I lose my sales job, I got to tell you I lost my sales job. I could just say I'm looking for a new job. You won't know unless I tell you or tell someone who tells you. In coaching, that's front page of the newspaper. Right. That's on ESPN. It's the front page of ESPN. So I think that when you go through those things, you learn a lot about yourself. And, it's not a fun experience. It wasn't shocking. We had a bad year. We had a plethora of injuries. The league was unbelievably good. I mean, we had in one season, we had Wichita State go to the Final Four. We had Creighton had Doug McDermott, the National College Player of the Year, and they were ranked in the top 15.
Yeah, VCU at the time, right?
Creighton.
Oh, Creighton.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
And then Northern Iowa went to the Sweet 16. So we were 0-6 in those games. We were 7-5 against the rest of the league. Yeah. But you finished 7-11 because you can't beat the other three. At one point were all ranked in the top 20. In that season. So you lost 6 games to top 20 teams. You're 7-5 against the normal people, but you end the year 7-11, and it's not good, And so I wasn't shocked. I kind of knew that we weren't going to be able to turn the corner to get to Creighton or Wichita or Northern Iowa's level. So I wasn't caught off guard, but it's still humbling. I had everywhere I had been lucky enough to coach. I was at Shawnee State, and we had the best season that they'd had in school history. I went to Muskingum. We had the best year they'd had in 25 seasons. I went to Kent. We were the first program to win the league back-to-back in 50 years. And now I show up at Bradley, and we can't win enough to keep your job. There were some factors there. It's a private school, high academics, had some kids we couldn't get accepted, and there were some factors, but at the end of the day, it's coaching, man. It's wins and losses. You got to win, and so I did television for a year, and honestly, it's the best thing that ever happened to me because what happened, I jokingly call it my coaching master's degree, because for an entire season, all I did, go to junior college game, go to junior college practice, go to Division I game, go to Division I practice, go to game day shoot-arounds, do a game on TV on Saturday, and recycle. So I got to see, without the guys of up until that point, every practice I'd been to, I was involved in. So you're not taking an observation approach. You're not analyzing anything. You're just worried about how can we get better today. And now you're able to step back and not only to be in that position where you can kind of analyze what's going on, but also to see the variety of ways people do it. Real brief, I did a game on television. I won't tell you the two schools because it'd be a little embarrassing for the one, but School A, the home team, has shoot-around.
Okay.
They came in. They had their guys get taped. They did defensive closeout drills. They ran through their offense at full speed. They did shooting drills. They went an hour and 15 minutes. Guys were dripping sweat. They leave. In comes the road team, who is from a much lower conference, who has a losing record. They had shoot-around scheduled for 1 p.m. At 1:20 p.m., the bus had still not arrived. I am thinking I'm going to just go ahead and leave because I got to go back to the hotel, shower, and get dressed and eat before the game. And I'm like, I'm going to wait 5 more minutes. Sometime in that last couple minutes, the bus pulled up. The guys came in. They sat in the bleachers. They changed their shoes. It was probably 1:35. They did 2-line layups where literally guys were just dribbling it in, flipping up a layup. They might dunk it. Maybe you throw it to me and I shoot a 3. They did that for 12 minutes. They then shot half-court shots until someone made one. They changed their shoes. They got on the bus, went back to the hotel. Producer of the TV broadcast came to me and said, hey, what are the 3 keys for Team A to win? What are the 3 keys for Team B to win? And I said, listen, we got a problem, man. Like, we better have a lot of filler because there is no chance this team, they have a losing record. They just came in here. I've never seen a team look less ready to play. The other team is good, and they're ready to go, and it was the best game day shoot-around you could ever have. This is going to be a blowout. Like, we better have filler. And the producer's like, okay, so I spend the next hour or 2 digging into backstories just so I'd have something to talk about on the air. Team B, the road team, that didn't do anything, that wasn't very good, they won by 15. So you're doing right after the game, I'm looking at the producer, and he's looking at me like, you're supposed to be the smart guy on the broadcast. I'm like, listen, I can't explain that. So that stuff goes on, and I'm not going to, that was the most outlandish result I saw. But, man, I saw teams come in on game day and do very little and have success. I saw teams come in and have a full-fledged practice and play awful. I saw them come in, do a full-fledged practice and play really well. There's not a formula, one-way, cookie-cutter to a championship. If there was, everybody would copy it and we would all win it. So you've got to go by what you have and the vibe of your team. I think there's times when you got to push hard and there's times when you got to pull back. You got to have some feel for that, and sometimes you're wrong, but that's the ebb and flow of the season. I think that it was a great learning experience getting to see all those coaches do it differently.
Before we get out of here, huge game against Vermont tomorrow. I know you tell us all the time, treat every game like the Super Bowl, and definitely do. But there's nationally televised game, and the stakes are kind of high for this game, being in second, kind of still fighting for that first place, place in the conference. How do you prepare for these games? Have you ever gotten nervous as a player before, and do you still get nervous as a coach going into certain games? Do you get the butterflies at all? Or?
Yeah, I think if I ever stop getting the butterflies, I need to resign. Yeah. I definitely get the butterflies, and honestly, you do get them a little more in the bigger games. But when you're coaching, sometimes I'm telling you, the scariest games are like you're playing a home game against a team that you're favored by 15 points to beat. And you don't know, like, if you play the right way, you're going to win, but you didn't have good practice, or a guy's sick, or a guy's hurt. I mean, that's when you're really tight. This game's exciting. It's exciting because we don't get on national TV in home games very often. It's the second time in school history it's ever happened. To have a regular season game on national TV is an unbelievable accomplishment. Our team earned it. They could have picked any game in the country, but because of the fact that we've got ourselves right here in second, we beat them the first time. They're in first. They've got Lamb, who's returning player of the year, and all those things like that. We earned our way to this national TV game. Unlike you're at an ACC school and you're in last place, well, you get national TV. Well, it doesn't work like that here. You've got to earn your way to it, and so we want to really play well. Because we don't get a chance to showcase our facility on national TV. We don't get a chance to showcase our program, our players. our university. And I hope that, we can really, that ESPN does a good job capturing the campus while they're here, because this is a great place. And I mean, the amount of people who've never been to Stony Brook who set foot here on a visit and then go, oh man, I had no idea, no clue, I didn't know it was this nice. I'm hoping we can really use it in that regard, and certainly us playing well would go a long way to doing that.
Awesome. So now before we, definitely let you go, we started off with a gift. Definitely want to end on one. Talk to Jeff Harrison. All right, got a copy of Holding Court, the Gene Ford story. Story about your dad, but just want to say, I read through the whole book over the last couple of days, man, and great stories in here, great stories about you. Speaks to the character about your dad. I definitely send all my condolences before. I definitely want to send them again and let you know, see some resemblance.
Maybe not the weight.
Not too
I used
much.
to say if he fell down, he'd
Drink a couple more of those, you'd be on your way.
I used to say if he fell down, he'd roll for 3 miles before he stopped. But that's funny.
Awesome, man. Definitely want to give that to you, man. And thank you so much for coming on, being the first guest here on the Up and Coming podcast. Thank you for all the listeners out there. First episode. Hopefully, got a lot more in store for you. And that's a wrap.
All right, Q.
All right,
Thanks,
man.
buddy.
No problem, man.